I just want to start this off by saying the ACC, Jim Phillips, Jerry Magalanes, and Miami. That was bullshit, and you know it. This is Exit Light. My name's Jack Tate. That's Colin Rudis. Zach 1 and Zach 2 are doing God knows what, studying for engineering exams, and at some point they're going to graduate and be smarter and richer than all of us. But as of right now, they're not on the podcast because they're busy. Um, um, I truthfully, I don't know where to start, Colin, because I went to Blacksburg last weekend for my sister's birthday and for ZDG's birthday, and we were watching the game together, and that was probably the most excited and happiest I've been in a sporting event, watching a sporting event in my entire life. And then the ACC ripped it away, and I can't help but feeling like it was purposeful, you know. Um, we were texting the entire game. And it was a good game. Like Tech played well. It was a good game, and we were excited, and we genuinely thought there was a chance that we were going to pull off a massive upset and turn the corner on the season. And the refs just took it away from us on not just the Hail Mary at the end, which arguably is more of a wishy-washy play than the holding that they took away from on PJ Prelude's long touchdown run. But the end all be all on that is that Miami sneaks away with a win that they did not deserve. Virginia Tech gets put down into the mud again. Just another typical Virginia Tech unlucky thing with you. You have to wonder if you're cursed at that point. That's about all I have to open it up, Colin. I don't know. I know you have some feelings that you're ready to get off your chest too.
I'm kind of glad we didn't just record this right after the game because I think I would have said a lot more. I haven't thought a ton about that game since it ended. I can't lie, just because it pissed me off so much. I mean, the hold was obviously bullshit. The Quan Felton caught that ball. I mean, he came down with possession and then hits the ground on his butt, and then it gets knocked out. Like, that's a dead ball anyway because he's on the ground with possession. But also, as much as the refs took it away, the clock management was also god awful. You can't leave Miami with 20 seconds at the end of the first half. That's 3 points. Well, that's not 3 points off the board, but it's 3 points on Miami's board. And then without that field goal for Miami, the fake field goal for Tech never happens because you're guaranteed to take the points. But also, why the hell are we having Parker Clements make the key block on that? I mean, what are we doing here? Let's put our worst lineman to make the key block on a fake field goal. Clock management was bad. And then even on the final drive, there's no reason that play should have been from the 30. They should have been in the red zone, if not on the 10-yard line, with plenty of time to have multiple plays. So, I mean, it's just, you can point fingers all over the place, but I mean, it comes back on Tech to an extent too. Not on Tech, on Pry. And third down defense. Third down defense was terrible. They couldn't get off the field.
Yeah.
Third and long converted after third and long converted. And of course, we're going to see that bullshit Cam Ward play, his Heisman moment. We're going to see that all over, which, I mean, yeah, that was a good play, but still. Also, Mose Phillips, what the are we doing getting up doing this after they just got like 25 yards to the 3-yard line when they're driving to score a touchdown to take the lead with like 2 minutes left? What are we doing, man? Come on.
I knew this was a good idea just to let you have the mic for a couple minutes after this. I have a couple stories to tell. So Friday night.
Now that I'm thinking about it, all the stupid shit coming back to me.
No, this is funny. So, for context, for the listeners and people who might be paying attention, Colin and I play a lot of cornhole and a lot of sports and just random stuff when we're hanging out at my house or his house and whatnot. And I don't think I get like super angry at sports and stuff like that, but I do get frustrated where I do like to throw some things just out of just kind of me being fun, just trying to laugh about it. Um, and there's a one time a couple years ago, maybe a year ago, where I threw a can of beer, and it cut my finger like big time open. And so like the joke is always that like when I get pissed off, I'm gonna throw a beer. So Colin, I was at ZDG's apartment on Friday watching the game, and I had my Twitter. Obviously, I get Twitter notifications from like D Cunna and Andy Bitter and whatnot. And so we're around the TV hoping that we're going to win the game. I see the notification pop up on my phone that Tech lost before it shows up on the TV. And so I'm like, I gobble noised my way out of the apartment. I had a can of Genesee. I bought Genesee from Kroger, like Matty Mo had at Outer Banks. And walked out the door, threw it as hard as I could, like hurt my shoulder, just about smoked a car, like missed a car by like maybe 6 inches into a tree, um, and then screamed a couple of bad words, and I walked home from Zach's apartment. Zach's apartment is it's a place called a Light. I guess I've been there a couple times before, but I've never had to walk there, I guess, and I've definitely never been drunk. And so, and so I did not really know my way back. So I was walking not sober. I mean, I was not. I don't want to say I was drunk, but I was not completely sober, and I was also pissed off. So I guess I took a wrong turn and ended up almost walking down the exit ramp to 460, like towards Tom's Creek. And so I'm just like, I shouldn't be here. So I walked and tried to retrace my steps and got even more lost in like some back streets. And then finally I ended up popping back onto Tom's Creek, or yeah, onto Tom's Creek, and worked my way back. But I was so mad that I ended up getting lost in a city that I've lived in for like 5.5 years, basically. And I guess only Virginia Tech football can do that. Um, we're going to talk. I mean, I'm going to bring up some stuff in a second, talking about just the shortcomings that led to us having to throw a Hail Mary there. Um, but I want to talk about that play because that play is going to be a defining factor in the rest of the season, whether or not, is it going to make Virginia Tech turn a page? Is it going to, cause us to, kind of quit, right? Quan Felton high points the ball, catches it, and he clearly has possession of it the entire way down. I will say there's a little bit of a bobble on like the way down, but he has it against his chest by the time he's hitting the ground, right? And he not only does he land inbounds, he also lands on everybody, right? He lands on a couple of players and then ends up rolling over, and you see him, you see him being down. There's no forward progress anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Like you can't not say that he's not down because he has the ball. He's on the ground. And then that's when the Miami player rolls over and starts hacking at the ball. And Quan still holds the ball. Then it gets knocked out, and it almost lands in. I want to say it was Gosnell's lap too, where he had hands there. And then after they hand fight around it, that's when the Miami player ends up being one, out of bounds, and two, coming away with the ball. So it looks like it's picked. But the refs see all of that in real time, and they call it a touchdown. They call it a touchdown on the field. And they review it and reverse it, saying basically nothing. And then the ACC comes out with a statement the next day saying that, and we find out this on College Game Day of all places, that it was ruled incomplete because the receiver, the Miami defender that touched the ball, was out of bounds, making the play dead. I understand that rule, but he had possession and was down before that.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
No, and I also how is there possibly inconclusive evidence or
Conclusive evidence. I mean, you had thoughts, right?
To turn that, to overturn that.
Yeah.
It's called a touchdown on the field. How are you possibly determining that, that's 100% incomplete? There's no way.
Yeah. There's not a single second that you can see that that the timeline that we just laid out didn't happen, right? So that's choke number one on the refs. The one that really pisses me off now, looking back on it, is the hold. I want to say
Yeah,
Braylon. I don't know which of the Moore brothers it is. One got hurt, and one had the most unfortunate call of the entire night. Well, second most, but um, he pancaked a guy, and
yeah, you
that's
could
a
tell getting bitched.
he literally got planted in the ground. He probably gets up with like chunks of grass in his head, and I don't know if you saw that they had chunks of grass in their hair in their helmets all night. Like,
Huh.
and
I forget. I
it's
think
just
Steven Gosnell got up the one time, and it's like
yeah.
there's just a clump of grass
Yeah,
right there.
and I told ZDG, I said he must feel like Tua right now. Um,
I mean, it's
I
definitely
mean, I don't. It's double edged because it's their field, also their just because Tua. And,
also Zeke Dolphins
yeah,
fan.
exactly, exactly. Um, but the dude gets pancaked, and Prelude's a guy who doesn't he's not really getting the touches that maybe he deserves, but I mean he's young, but he doesn't get the touches, and he doesn't get the touches, and he's making the most of his touches, and he scores a 60-yard, 50-yard touchdown, basically blowing the game open. Right, it's going to change the course of the game, and they call it back on a BS hold, and it was kind of at that moment that I was like, Jesus Christ, this is gonna we're gonna start to lose momentum here because things are gonna start to switch. Um, I think we ended up kicking a field goal that drive. I think that was Love's second 50-yard field goal. Um,
Yeah, I think so.
but it's just like at that point you're taking 4 points off the board, and then obviously you have the touchdown that they called they reversed, and then the field goals the 3 points that we gave up, and the other 3 points that we gave up. It's just it's it's nice to see him play that way, but it leaves a massive sour taste because we should have had a win that would have put us right back in the conversation to win the ACC. And I don't think we're out of that yet. We know that we're not out of that yet, but it's just like, damn, like we deserve better than that.
Yeah, I don't think there's no number two that's emerged in the ACC right now. I mean, Clemson's playing a lot better than they were, but I mean, I think you have an obvious number one in Miami.
Yeah, well, the
Yeah,
difference with Clemson is that we still play them, so we still control our fate in that.
at the head. Yeah.
Yeah,
Going back to what you said at the beginning, it just kind of popped back in my mind. I definitely agree that like the ACC's got to have Miami up there because that's all they have right now. You thought Florida State was going to be that team, but they
well,
got ooey ooey.
let's talk about that for a second though, because it I don't like to be, and you know how this is. Like, I mean, me and you are both passionate fans of so many different teams, and for the most part, we like the same, or like we our sports teams are the same city. Like, you like Pittsburgh, I like DC. We have constantly these discussions about like things that just maybe don't seem fair, but I don't think we've ever had the instance where we feel like things are just rigged against us. Because
Yeah,
sports are sports. But if you look at like the stakes that the ACC has in the game right now, with the realignment going on in the Big Ten and the SEC, and then also like the legal battle that's going on with Florida State and then kind of Clemson, right? You it paints a picture. It paints a big picture. You have your lead brands of Clemson and Florida State who objectively have either fallen off from what they used to be, Clemson, or have massively disappointed their expectations, Florida State. Um, and you have these two brands that are supposed to be like the headliners for your league, and you have an opportunity to take a third brand, come out of that hat, a third brand, put them in the college football playoff, and really begin to add another team to that party, and increase the value of the ACC of the league. And obviously, I understand the reason that Virginia Tech and Miami were and are such big rivals is because we came from the Big East and we became those two massive brands that joined the ACC. It's
yeah,
very simple. And if Miami is back, then that helps the ACC, and I'm not going to deny that. That's good for the conference, but it's almost like they made these calls in the Hail Mary call in particular because they can't devalue the fact that the U might be back. And that's bullshit. I mean, that's fraudulent. I mean, and granted, they can't prove it. There's nothing that will ever be able to tell yes or no. But if that's the case, then we're truthfully screwed as college sports as we know it. You know, you have talk about NIL, and I will talk about NIL in a little bit too. But you have NIL and the realignment with TV deals exceeding billions and billions of dollars, and then you have just making political choices over actual game choices. I thought college sports was the purest thing that you could have, and now all of a sudden we're turning into the NFL 2.0. So
Yeah, it's definitely ridiculous from that standpoint. Like, I don't know. It's just everything's turning into money, 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 money. And like you said with the NIL, like I don't disagree with the NIL. Like, I mean, I agree that the players should be able to get money. They should be able to get paid, but it's they're it's just going to get worse. It's already getting way over the top, and it's just going to get worse. And I saw something earlier in the year before the season started that Ohio State is like their players are getting like over, yeah, I want to say it was 20. It might have been more, but over 20 some $1 million, like just spread out
yeah,
between their team. That's ridiculous.
yeah. And I mean, it just goes back to the state of college football. So obviously I was in Blacksburg on this weekend, so I woke up on Saturday, and for the first time in forever, didn't have anything going on. Didn't have a football game to get ready for. Um, so I woke up, put college game day on, listened to those dudes talk, and of course there were a couple of you know uh, big stories. The first one being the Hail Mary, the Fail Mary, or whatever you want to call it. It was a catch 2.0, and how those rules were interpreted and applied. And basically, they are all saying like, one, the hold was bullshit. Nick Saban said it was stupid, and then two, Pat McAfee and basically everybody on the panel was saying that like you can't reverse that. Kirk Herbstreit was like, you can't reverse that based on the evidence that you saw. The second story, and I'm not sure if you saw this, was about the UNLV quarterback Matthew Sluka,
Oh yeah.
the dude that. So basically, if you guys don't know, he basically opted out of the season at UNLV. That UNLV was 3-0, opted out of the season because UNLV had promised him like $100,000 for like relocation and NIL, and he didn't get it in writing, and they obviously backed out of their that promise. So basically, Matthew Sluka came from Holy Cross, 4-year starter at Holy Cross. He backed out of the season, and then he's going to redshirt to make sure he's enables himself to have a second year. And it just sparks this whole debate on like the role that NIL plays in college athletics right now, and it's every sport. But basically, the people on game day were talking. Pat McAfee was talking, and he's saying, none of this is going to get better because you have state by state having different rules, right? And you have, Virginia can have different rules in North Carolina, and North Carolina can have different rules in Colorado and California and Texas. And obviously, there's no limit to who can donate or who can put up money or what can put up money. And basically, it's none of it's going to get better until they put some sort of federal regulation up that limits, and it's just legislation that has to be put up to say who can give money, where the money has to come from, how much you can get. And we've said this all the time, Colin. It's like none of it's going to get better until they put some sort of salary cap thing on college sports. And like you said, and I completely agree. Nothing. I don't. I am 100% for players getting paid. They are very clearly putting their livelihoods on the line to play college football and make their name so they can go make money in the league or otherwise, right? And they should have the opportunity to be paid for that. But it's not fair for these. Basically what happens is it just turns into big corporations versus small corporations. It's big markets versus small markets. And um, you have your Alabama, Georgia, Ohio State, these teams that are national powerhouses, that you're going to have big donors, like big corporations donating money to get their players to advertise their brands, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just going to keep turning into pay for play. and you're going to have the big schools that are just going to keep getting bigger, and the small schools are just going to be, you know, just be stagnant. And that's what you're seeing with Tech. I believe that Coach Pry and his staff, other than some really stupid things, but they're getting better, and they're recruiting well, and they're developing players. But you're not going to catch up to Ohio State. You're not going to catch up to you're not going to catch up to even Miami with who has massive donors in LSU and Georgia and Bama and all those teams. So just
Yeah,
college football.
the only way you have any chance of catching up is if you just like you find that diamond in the rough that's just like they're not ranked that high in the top 300 like the ESPN 300, but they just come in and they ball out. Like, I mean, that's the only chance you have of jumping back into that like category of whatever you want to call it, powerhouses, I guess you could say. It's just like you gotta have the one random dude come in and ball out. I mean, yeah, like you said though, the biggest thing is salary cap. Like, there's got to be a cap because it's you can just like a team like Ohio State could just see somebody balling out at like whatever you want to say, Ohio or something like that, like a MAC school, and they're like, all right, we want you. Here's $5 million. Like,
Yeah, and they'll give him $5 million to be the third string on their team.
yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
it's ridiculous.
so
It's
it's
insane.
just it is frustrating because it's not just football. It's every sport, and I mean we've had. I mean, how many players did Virginia Tech lose this past year to Virginia Tech men's basketball lose to money, right?
Right.
You lose players to Vanderbilt and
Yep.
Miami and et cetera. And then you talk about women's basketball who lost their whole damn team and future to SEC money, right? And it's just the nature of college sports. And then you have baseball players who, they can't even get full scholarships because you can only have a certain amount of scholarships for the team. So it's just the nature of college sports and college athletics in general is just so backwards, and um, it's frustrating. All right, so Colin, I want to talk just a little bit about the miscues. You've talked a little bit about the time management and just the things that we could have done better. And I always feel like it's better to talk about the negatives before the positives. So let's start a little bit with the time management. Into the first half, John Love kicks a 58-yard field goal. It's good right off the toes, and everybody. I mean, it's right down the pipe. It had enough to go to be longer by 3 or 4 yards too. Like, it was good. And so Tech takes the massive momentum into the half, and you're thinking that they're going to be up by what were they? Should have been up by 10 at half.
Yeah.
And then, but so let's back up. Third down, Kyron gets sacked for a loss of 7. They back him up, and then Coach Pride calls a timeout. So at that point, you're thinking that
We're gonna gotta get closer.
yeah, you're thinking that they're gonna try to go for it here, right? And you're just like, okay, so that's why I thought Miami called a timeout initially. I don't know if you realize that. I texted you like during halftime. I was like, or I texted you right after that. I was like, that's crazy. I can't believe we called a timeout, because either you have to let it run down so the field goal is the last play of the half, or you're letting the clock run out and you're going to the locker room. They don't do that. He calls a timeout, and he calls a timeout and they kick the field goal, leaves 25 seconds left on the clock, going into the kickoff. Then they decide they're going to squib it, right? And yes, the squib kick takes 5 seconds off the clock, but they get the ball, and they basically almost busted it. And they get the ball at the 35, 40-yard line to give them the ball at the 35 with 20. It was like 18 seconds left. In the first play, they get a pass interference. So then they kick a field goal, and they basically erase the momentum that we gained from John Love's 58-yard field goal with a 52-yard field goal, whatever. Then everybody's just like, what the and you're like, you're thinking about that. Why did we give those points up? We should have been up by an extra 3. And like you said,
Well, so I'm not even gonna lie. I watched him kick the field goal, and I'm sitting at my dad's house, like we're all sitting there watching the game, and I'm like, I say it as a joke. I'm like, they left too much time on the clock. I get up, I go to the bathroom, I grab a snack, walk back in, or I see the notification pop up on my phone. Miami, however many yard field goal, halftime, and I'm like,
Yep.
they really just did that.
Yep. And it was self-inflicted too. And that's the frustrating thing is that
Absolutely.
like
Why are
when
you calling a timeout there?
there's no I mean,
With only
look,
5 seconds left.
yeah, there's it's like it feels like somebody is on a PlayStation controller just hitting random buttons, truthfully.
Yeah.
And it comes down to that.
When it comes down to the time management, that's
Yeah.
what it feels like.
And then time management in the second half, you have to make a last they did the right thing and they let Miami score. Um
Yeah, I mean, I think
You
you
had to.
have to.
And we said that too in our text. You had to let them score because they were moving the ball. They knew how to move the ball. Um, but they let like 30 extra seconds run off just like looking at the ball and not calling timeout, even though we had two. And then,
Yeah,
and I mean, it just it should have been a horse collar. I'm not, refs are refs. But then, Kyron had a seam to run down the middle and then he decided to throw the ball. I think it was incomplete. Right?
yeah.
I don't know if you remember that. He probably could have gained an extra 10 yards there, and then they still had a timeout. So you call that timeout there. It's just like collectively, Coach Pry and truthfully, like the players just did an awful job of managing the clock there at that last drive. Um, that was frustrating. We've talked about that. You talked a lot about third down defense, and we really don't have to because we're not going to scheme up a defense. We just somehow got to get better at that. Like
Yeah, you got
third and 11, fourth and 7.
to have guys in the middle of the field wide open.
Yeah, and then you play it right for the first time all game, and a dude slips and catches it on his back. So
Oh my god, I know.
yeah, the
That,
one thing that I want to, make fun of, but just kind of annoying, is having two number 17s on the field kicking a field goal. How do you do that again?
and luckily this time the refs were so stupid they didn't see it.
How do you mess that up?
That's so
It's the
bad.
kicker.
Yeah,
One of them's the kicker. It's the most important player on the field right then.
that's so
How do you
bad.
do that again? Like seriously, Cole Nelson's a dog. But you have to be like, oh, that guy's 17 too. I can't be here.
Yeah.
Like, seriously. Like, if he's kicking, if he's the kicker, and there's no other kicker on the damn team, I can't be here. It's fucking
But
stupid.
also coaching. Like,
Yeah, I mean, yes, I understand that. It's definitely coaching.
but yeah,
It's the scheme in general. Stu Holt has round of applause for being the biggest dumbass on the coaching staff this season.
yeah,
And that's saying something.
like
Because I've
twice.
seen Tyler Bowen throw screens for 7 straight weeks. But damn.
Pitch after pitch.
Damn. They're so lucky they didn't see that. It basically cost them a game in Nashville, and
It would have. Well, I mean,
it would have cost them a game here
yeah, I mean,
because
yeah.
they would have they just got lucky. But whatever. I mean, whatever. Let's switch gears a little bit because at some point you have to get over it and just move on. Tech played a damn good game for the first time all season. I mean,
Yeah, by far the best game they played.
they best they've played in a long time, in years. Truthfully, like a couple
Yeah.
years. It's just unfortunate they came out on the wrong end of it. It's unfortunate. Positives. I mean, what did you see? I mean, look, watching the whole game and seeing it at home for the first time in a long time. What did you see?
Facial. I mean, feed the man.
Yeah.
Like, you
I mean,
give him the ball, big things happen.
there's no reason he shouldn't have just about 20 touches every game. He's
I mean,
over.
they did. He got his touches this game. He had 19 carries.
I agree.
So.
Yeah, and he had it's like fourth or fifth straight game, or I think it's like fourth straight game over 100.
But that's what I'm saying. You give the man the ball 20 times a game, and he's going to get you 150 yards plus.
Yep.
Like,
unless you run him to the right side, because we have a right tackle that can't block. But
number 70.
Yeah, maybe that guy.
That was
funny story. In our Exit Light college football league that we run on Discord, I was playing North Carolina and I had the ball. He threw a pick at like the 3, and he was just stuffing my run. So I was gonna throw a little play action like a bootleg, and the pressure came off the right side and I got sacked for a safety. So even the football game is realistic. Parker Clements blows. So my positive, I want to say, I mean, Kyron played a pretty good game.
Yeah,
He
he
threw a
made pretty
pick.
good decisions.
He threw a
But
pick, and that wasn't his fault. Aiden Green, it hit him in the hands. Little bit
it
behind
was.
him.
I was gonna
It was a
say the
little
same
bit
thing.
behind him, but it hit him in the hands. Like it wasn't like behind him where he had
You
to make
either
a quick adjustment. He was tracking it the whole time. He just dropped it.
you either catch that ball or you knock it down.
Yep,
Like
yep. And of
you
course,
can't.
yeah,
You can't
basically
figure-
he tipped it up to the defender.
Yeah, exactly,
You know, like
exactly.
you either have to. I mean, it is what it is. It shouldn't have hurt us, but I think Kyron played a really good game. The Besides Parker Clements sucking, the offensive line seemed to play pretty good, even when one of the Moore brothers went down. Like it seemed like almost in a way, like once they realized they were shorthanded, they kind of just like gritted up and they started to play a little bit better. Um, you know, Bashal and PJ had a really good game. Aiden Green really came out strong after the drop. Despite the drop.
Yeah.
Jalen Lane is, uh, if not Bashal, Jalen Lane's the second MVP of this team. He is. I mean, anytime he touches the ball, they are making things happen. And despite like the third down defense, you could tell they got gassed at the end of the game. Um, but they played really well. They played a lot better. I wouldn't say they played really well, but they played a lot better. Um, Forcing turnovers, a couple picks. Um, both of the picks that Cam Ward threw were close to being pick sixes. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I don't know if you saw the video, but the tight end for the Caleb Spencer pick came out of nowhere and basically threw a blocker into Caleb Spencer to
I
make
know.
the
I
tackle.
can see that.
It was close. And then Mose Phillips, yeah, it was Mose. Mose had the pick at the end zone, and he almost reached.
Saw him. I saw him and I was like, "Oh God, he's wide open."
Yeah,
And then you just see Mose pop into the screen.
yeah,
It's like, "Oh, never mind."
yeah, and it was like, I mean, he played it right. So,
Yeah,
John Love, just there's
yeah,
nothing like feeling like you're automatic as a kicker. Having
yeah,
trust. As a Washington fan, I feel like that's been my story recently, is finally having some trust in a kicker. But
yeah.
John
After
Love
the
played
season,
well. And overall, nice to see Virginia Tech play well, but also nice to see that rivalry return. Truthfully, like in a
yeah.
non-biased thing, it's nice to see Miami and Tech play again, um, with
I will
stakes on
say,
the line.
I will say, it's pain, but Cam Ward was dropping some absolute dimes.
Yeah, he made Dorian look silly a couple times, and that's frustrating.
Yeah,
Yeah, and there's nothing you can do about it. Like, yeah, he was just he wasn't playing them bad.
he
He was just
just
making good
ball.
throws.
Yeah,
Um, so positives, just overall like a fun game to watch. Just frustrating the way it ended. Tech had a
yeah.
lot of improvements. The play calling, I want to say the play calling was great. I mean, Tyler Bowen
It was a lot better than
he caught a really good game, and um it was
when
just
he was calling the right place when he needed to. He wasn't calling the
yeah,
pitch on 2nd and 12
yeah,
when
yeah,
they know what's coming.
yep. And the thing was like,
He did fake pitches a couple times.
well, the interesting thing is that they very quickly realized that they found the things that were working, and that's what allowed them to keep doing those things. And then once they started to hone in on the outside runs, they were dumping them over the middle. And I mean, that's basically how they scored the first touchdown. They played a good game. Um, if they can just get to that the rest of the season, the outlook is a lot better than sitting at 2-3 right now. And truthfully, 2-3 right now is not the end of the world, because we can very easily go run the table and see
Yeah.
them again in December. So
If we have that drones that was on that first touchdown the rest of the season,
yeah,
like that drones looked elite.
I mean,
That
dude,
was a
if
tiny
we get
play.
the Kyron drones that threw the touchdown to Aiden Green in the fourth,
Yeah.
and that, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
that's
not
true.
there we're not going to be stopped. Um,
Yeah,
those
the
long
first
drives,
well, I'm watching Kyron. He's God, stuttering. He's scrambling and I'm just like, run it, run it, run it. and then he just chucks it, and I'm like, oh god. And
I
then just
said
he goes,
that. I said
and he
that's
stands
not
there by
good.
himself. I was like, oh word.
Yeah. Um. I mean, that's I don't have much more to say. It's like if they play like that, the hope is there that we'll you know be able to play Miami again in December. Obviously
Yeah.
depends on some other teams, but we'll see. But we're gonna pull a Metallica meets Bob Seger and aggressively turn the page here and just talk a little bit about Stanford. This is one of those games that when we had our football preview, we were kind of listing as a trap game, and we said it just like this. We said we are pretty sure that the game against Miami is going to be emotional in one way or the other, win or loss. Will Tech be able to go all the way out west with the time difference and perform, or are they going to go all the way out there and quit because of what happened last week? Stanford is a middle of the pack ACC team. They don't know if they're going to have a quarterback. The line is very, very quickly, shifting into Tech's favor. Um, what are you thinking about Stanford, and what are you thinking, just the outlook for Tech moving into this week?
I mean, I'm trying to look up the spread real quick. Last I saw, I thought it was 6. It is 8 now. So I guess that goes into what you're saying about the quarterback. Um, I mean, it's winnable. They just got they beat Syracuse 2 weeks ago, but they just got smoked by Clemson.
Yep.
Um, I mean, I haven't watched them at all this year. I'm not gonna lie, but I mean, it's definitely it's winnable. Like you
Yep.
play the way you did against Miami, you're gonna win by 2 scores, 3
Yeah.
scores.
Yep. I agree with that. Um, Truthfully, the thing is, they have to be solid defensively, and then they can't get off to a slow start being on the road. Um, I mean, I don't know. I really don't have a whole bunch to add on to Stanford because I haven't thought about Stanford a whole bunch. Stanford like I said, they're a middle of the pack ACC team, but they surprised Syracuse. They went out and beat them. Um, so you can't treat them like they're a
They're not
slouch,
eight.
you know. But
Yeah,
they're not some random group of five team that you can just walk all over. You have to go out there and perform. But in my mind, and as a fan, I'm so pissed off that I'm ready to just go beat the shit out of the next team that comes our way. You know,
yeah,
and I'm hoping that that's the way that they're being.
same
That
way.
things are going in the locker room right now.
Yeah,
I'm just hoping that they're just like, that sucks so much that we just got that game taken away from us when we should have won. But let's turn the
that's
page
it.
and go kill everybody.
Yeah,
Like, let's get
exactly.
pissed off. Let's run in there and beat the lights out of everybody that comes our way. And I guess we'll see at 3:30 on on Saturday. So
I
um,
also think it was wild. I was looking at the football Instagram page yesterday, and I was just watching the story, and they're showing the trucks leaving. And I said, "We'll see you in Stanford," and I'm just like, they're leaving on a Monday. That's wild.
yeah, well, it's kind of funny. Like that, I mean, it's kind of like the NASCAR stuff too. Like they have to go. They just take so long to get
Yeah,
out there. So yeah, Stanford up next. Hopefully, going to turn the page and have a big response to the unfortunate stuff that happened against Miami. The real season is just starting. It's a frustrating way to start, losing in a heartbreaker. But truthfully, it gets I don't want to say easier, but the road gets clearer moving forward, where you can just the you control your destiny and you control your fate the entire time. So
yeah.
look for Tech to really bounce back here and just start smoking teams and see what happens. But I think it's time for some picks. So
What is going on, everybody? Glad to be joining once again here on the Exit Light podcast, hosting the Picks of the Week segment. Let's go ahead and dive right into things this week, beginning with our first game. It's Syracuse at number 25, UNLV. Jackson, go ahead and take it away.
yeah, let me get to start this one off. It's actually such an interesting storyline because of how much UNLV has been in the headlines recently. UNLV off to one of their best starts in a long time, playing a Power 4 team in Syracuse. Syracuse has to take the trip all the way out west. But I just think it's not. I think it's one of those things where it's just the P4 team is just going to be better than the group of 5. It's going to be close, but Syracuse is going to beat UNLV and kind of make the Matthew Sluka controversy kind of blow up a little bit more.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it earlier. Obviously, UNLV's favored, but I don't know. I don't think there's any way that Syracuse with Kyle McCord will travel all the way to UNLV to lose. But yeah.
All right, going into our second game of the week, we've got SMU. They're heading over to Louisville to face the number 22 ranked Cardinals right now. So should be a bit of an interesting ACC matchup here that could have some implications as far as who's going to be playing in the championship game at the end of the season. So what are you guys' thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I'm so glad that these two teams play each other and we don't have to play them because it's nice for them to beat up on each other and give somebody a loss. Louisville looked pretty good against Notre Dame, but the verdict's just still out on how good Notre Dame actually is. They lost to Northern Illinois and then they just went out and throttled Purdue the next week. They beat Texas A&M in week 1 or week 2. It's just ultimately you just don't know how good Notre Dame is, which leads me to wonder how good Louisville actually is. SMU looked fantastic against Florida State, but we all know Florida State is god awful. I think Louisville, just because they're accustomed to the grind and the rough of the ACC, I think they're gonna win. Probably about 10 points, 10-point victory for Louisville, which scares me because Louisville is pretty much the prospective team that I'm worried about potentially holding serve over us in terms of standings when it comes down to December.
Yeah, I agree too. SMU, I mean, we still don't know how good they really are. Like you said, they beat Florida State. But, I mean, congratulations, you beat the worst team in the conference. But I just don't think there's a way that in their first year in the ACC, they go into Louisville, which will be packed and rocking. Like, I don't think they go in and win. I'm right there with you. I think Louisville takes it by like right around 10-14.
All right, and keep things still in the ACC. We've got another matchup here that could have some implications on the postseason for potentially one of these teams. Boston College going for a test at our favorite rivals, the University of Virginia, the Cavaliers. So let me know how much you all think Boston College is going to be winning by in this one.
Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you one team that's not going to have any championship implications surrounding them, and that's those damn UVA teams. Those guys suck. Tony Elliott he might be on the hot seat. He already is on the hot seat, but he might be on like the next flight out here at the end of the season. So it depends on whether or not Thomas Castellanos plays for Boston College, because Boston College struggled against Western Kentucky last week, and then at the end of the Michigan State game, they kind of let Michigan State claw back into that game. If I want to say so, if Boston College does not have Castellanos, I personally think, and I'm going to tell you, Colin, from what I'm seeing is that Castellanos has not been practicing. So I'm going to go on the assumption that Castellanos is not going to play. If Castellanos plays, Boston College wins and they win handedly. But going on to the assumption that Boston College does not have their starting quarterback, I think UVA wins like 24-23 and squeaks it out.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I think pretty sure Boston College would wait to take the lead over Western Kentucky. I think Western Kentucky led most of the game. And obviously that means that the backup quarterback isn't impressive. And so I'm right there with you. I mean, if they struggled that badly against Western Kentucky, UVA is probably not much better. But UVA probably wins by a score. But if Castellanos does play, Boston College smokes him.
Okay, moving things over to the only ranked matchup, unless I'm wrong about that. I'm pretty sure it is the only ranked matchup that we have going across the entire country this week. And you would assume that this is where College Game Day would be headed if they weren't already there a couple of weeks ago, hosting for that Notre Dame game. So it's number 9 Missouri heading once again to College Station, take on the 25th ranked Texas A&M Aggies.
Yeah,
And might I add to that as well, Big Pat Wessler's number 9 ranked Missouri Tigers.
don't hype him up right now. He's currently fueled by the forfeits and the team people that aren't interested in playing because ZDG holds the league up by 19 days each week advance. So I'm just kidding. Pat's on the grind. He's beating the allegations, but that's besides the point. In real life, Missouri, Texas A&M, Missouri has not looked impressive at all this season, but they've just continued to squeak wins out. Barely beat Boston College. Missouri or Vanderbilt took them to overtime, and of course they lost that one. Um, it's just I don't know. I was really high on Missouri early in the season with Coach Drinkwitz and the Tigers, and I thought like Columbia was going to be the place to be for them. But Texas A&M, you just never know how good they're going to be. It's just you truthfully just can't ever tell. That game's in College Station. I think that home crowd's just nuts. I think Texas A&M is going to pull off an upset and finally unearth the true Missouri. But it's going to be close. That's all I have to say.
I'm going to need you to stop saying what I'm going to say because I can't be agreeing with you this much. Damn it. Yeah, I was very high on Missouri to start the year. I thought they were going to be like a true contender. I thought they were going to be great after, ending the year the way they did last year and stuff. They looked good. And so I thought they were going to be better this year. But like you said, they haven't looked impressive at all. We talked about this before the season started, before week 1, Texas A&M. It's like 105,000 people. The place is going to be nuts. I don't think they go in there and win. I think Texas A&M might handle them pretty easily.
Well, I do want to say this is probably going to be the point where Missouri is going to turn a corner in whichever direction it goes. If Missouri can go into College Station and win this game, it's really going to put them in a place where I truthfully think this is one of those games that's going to like be on their resume when it comes down to selection. Can't confirm nor deny, but I think they have a pretty easy schedule. And it's kind of the reason they've been a dark horse to make the playoffs because for as much as the SEC is tough, they don't have an awful schedule. But I think if Missouri goes into College Station and wins, expect them to really just get better down the stretch and turn into a team that could go and be playing after the regular season. So.
All right, and now moving into our final game before our game of the week with Virginia Tech. I know you guys are going to have a lot of thoughts about this one. We've got the number 8 ranked Miami Hurricanes heading to Berkeley, taking on the Cal Bears.
Colin, I'm sorry, but we're going to end up agreeing on this one too, because California. California is not good. They have the funniest. I don't know if you've seen them on Twitter, but they have the funniest Twitter fan base ever because they they kind of play into like the woke jokes, and so like they're like we don't do it's like we don't do chants, we do critical race theory at our stadiums, and they just make funny jokes, and it's honestly comical. Unfortunately, they have the Twitter fan base. Unfortunately, their football team sucks. They lost to Florida State. Miami's gonna smoke them, and then the U's gonna be all back, and they're gonna think that they're the best team in the country. They're like, what are they like? Are they like 5 right now? What are they?
8.
Miami's 8. They fell. That's funny.
Oh no, they did. They dropped the spot.
That's so funny. They had 2 teams in front of them lose, and they dropped.
They got jumped by Oregon and Penn State.
That's funny. That sucks.
Dude, so they got jumped.
Anyways, they're gonna win, and they're gonna win big. That game day crowd's gonna be funny, but they're gonna win big, and Miami's gonna go into whatever games next, and they're gonna be doing all that crap, and they're gonna think they're so good, and then I'm gonna be even more pissed that we didn't beat them. So
Yeah, somehow this game gets game day, and I really think it would be hilarious if they go there, if the game day crew starts talking about, well, this should be a one-loss Miami team. They should do that. Come on, Pat, do it for the team. But realistically, I think Miami might drop 60. They're gonna handle Cal pretty easily. Cal's not good. Like you said, they lost to Florida State. You've got to be pretty
they do
bad.
have a decent defense, but I don't think that matters.
Memphis beat Florida State.
Yeah.
At Florida State. Florida State is Cal lost at Florida State. Like
is Florida State like 1-4 right now?
I think so.
That's their only. They lost to Georgia Tech, Boston College, Memphis, and now SMU. They beat Cal.
Yeah, they were 1-4.
Yeah, great. We give California game day. That's really good.
Yeah.
They couldn't go to They couldn't go to like. I mean, shoot. I don't even know, dude. I don't want to talk about it.
All right, well, moving into our game of the week, going over to the other side of the Bay Area, going to Palo Alto, California. The Virginia Tech Hokies are taking on the Stanford Cardinal. So, should be an interesting matchup here this Saturday afternoon. Let me know what you all think with a score prediction.
Okay, like we said, it's either this is going to be either Virginia Tech's going to go out west and they're going to turn the page and they're going to be pissed off and they're going to go bust the hell out of Stanford, or they're going to come in that game and they're going to be flat and sad and they're going to quit. I can't imagine that after just about the team played together. They were all doing the same celebrations and everything. They were hyped up to play Miami. I can't imagine that they're going to go to Stanford and not be ready to play despite all of that. I know it sucked to lose on a Hail Mary or to lose on the lack of a Hail Mary. And you kind of feel like you gave the game away, but they know that they're so much better than the way that they played despite playing great. I think it's going to be like that. It's going to be this is going to be like the 2019 Virginia Tech Miami game where we turn the page and really start our season, despite not having the great season to start the season that we wanted. Virginia Tech's going to go out to Stanford. They're going to win 27-16. And I'm willing to bet you that, the game is the score looks closer than it really is after the fact, but Virginia Tech's going to go get a win out west.
Yeah, I agree. Sorry, I was looking up a quick stat from last week. Clemson had 4 sacks, so I think that Tech's D-line could feast APR. Retake the nation's lead, please. But yeah, I'm right there with you though. It completely depends, like how they're viewing this week. Is like, are we sad? We just got pulled out of a win, like, or are you pissed off and you want to go beat the face in of anybody that steps in front of you? And hopefully that's the Hokie team we get. But I think realistically, I think Tech wins by 17.
Word. So that's just about gonna wrap us up. I feel like we keep saying this, Colin, but sooner or later, life will slow down and we'll be able to get everybody. We'll be able to get everybody back on the podcast. We definitely miss having ZDG to make cuts and Ellis to make jokes towards. They are busy doing actual important things like studying for exams that are going to make them $100,000. But but so we'll get there. I know for certain we're about to have a couple special guests here up on the podcast in a couple weeks. Not going to name any names, but if you know, you know. Basketball season coming around the corner. Hint, hint. We're not far away from tip off in Castle. Man, it's just schedules just dropped, so we have a lot of preview stuff to do for that. Gonna be right back where we started, basketball season, talking about men's and women's and the same breakdowns, talking about the same 5 different keys to the games every week. But and we'll go do a podcast outside of Castle again and talk to Rhode Island baseball players and stuff like that. So but besides the point, if you guys haven't, you know the drill. Subscribe to our YouTube, like, comment, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter. We have still have a lot of fun football, the college football game stuff that we've been doing. About almost halfway through the season, having fun. Our boy Isaac's currently ranked like 4th in the country, 4th in the league.
I'm really good.
I'm gonna tell you, Zach DeGrowley has not played a game since like August 1st. But besides the point, we are cooking our way through the season, and we're gonna have some fun. There'll be some graphics and standings and clips and videos and all that random crap out sometime soon. But until then, we'll catch you next time when we're talking a little bit about basketball. Hopefully about a couple more Hokie wins. Bye week is a good time to kind of regroup and get everybody back on the same page. But until then, we will see you next time.